Gamar Tov, everyone. You know, I have to tell you, I never really imagined myself being a pulpit rabbi. Coming into rabbinical school, I didn't imagine serving in a synagogue. I had just completed Avodah, the Jewish Service Corps, and having been a devotee of Jewish camp, I got a minor in Judaic studies. I was very clearly a Jewish nerd, which I say lovingly. And it should seem obvious in hindsight that I would be a likely candidate to end up working in the Jewish community. However, prior to rabbinical school, most of my Jewish connections existed outside the realm of synagogues. In rabbinical school itself, many students end up focusing on a particular type of rabbinic setting. From synagogues, but the campus rabbinate, right, at a Hillel, or to be a chaplain, or rabbis work at Jewish federations in community relations, or at day schools. I wanted to be a generalist, meaning I wanted to experience a lot of different settings for rabbis while still in school. And it wasn't until my final year of rabbinical school that I became a congregational intern. Part of that is really just that those are very coveted, usually well-paying internships, so you got to wait until later to sort of become more qualified. But that's the year I got mine, and I accepted it in 2017 at the Society for the Advancement of Judaism, aka the SAJ, on the Upper West Side of that other city. I saw it as an amazing opportunity to continue to deepen my skill set. But in truth, I really still didn't imagine working for a synagogue. If I'm honest, I think I thought to myself, what self-respecting 21st century rabbi wants to work in a synagogue? Isn't it, as we might hear in the news, a dying institution? Membership dues. Who's going to be paying to be a part of a community these days? I mean, who's going to pay for the privilege of, I don't know, journeying through the life cycle with a few hundred other people? Or sharing some of our most intimate moments with another, from births to B'nai Mitzvot, weddings and deaths, traveling the course and rhythm of the Jewish year with one another from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur through Hanukkah, Purim, Passover, and beyond, breaking bread, unpacking our traditions, many timeless teachings, bringing our wisdom to bear, and coming with new insights for ourselves and those around us. I mean, who's going to pay to be a part of a community to do that? Sarcasm. As you can see, over the course of time at my internship, I came to see things differently than when I first began. In fact, synagogues, communities like this one, are more important now than ever. I see it firsthand here at CBS. But important doesn't mean they'll last forever. Just because I believe and I've seen synagogues serve a compelling purpose doesn't mean that we just open the doors and you all will show up. As I spoke on Rosh Hashanah morning, things are indeed different now than they were for our ancestors, even different than they were for our parents, even different than when I was a kid. When Jews were less accepted, we went to synagogue because that's where our people were. And we didn't have as many people in so many different communities as we do today. It seems now that secular society holds more of a place of primacy in our lives than our own traditions and our own religious roots. I'm not trying to be judgmental. Mainstream society has a compelling pull. Individual freedoms, popular culture and entertainment, science, free markets, things I participate in and am grateful for and appreciate. But I do think we undervalue synagogues. I have come to believe that we need synagogues and the synagogue needs you. But what value does it give to your lives? And what can you bring to the synagogue? We know that there is a well-documented epidemic of loneliness. It was literally this week that the New York Times reported that staying at home increased for obvious reasons during the pandemic, but that we have not returned to our pre-pandemic levels of social interaction, that most of us on average are spending an hour and a half more at home than we used to, just since 2020. and we were already more isolated than we ever have been before. We are lonely, and we are making ourselves lonelier. We don't know how to be together. We join less institutions. We live in less densely populated neighborhoods. Our world is in fact so automated you could go through an entire day without interacting with another human being. It is astonishing to me that what we offer here every day is not more well attended, given how lonely we know people to be. When we come here to sing, to sit next to a friend or even a stranger and sing with them, read in unison with them, to name what we are grateful for, these have tremendous proven mental and physical health benefits. Judaism can literally help you, as our text says, Ki chem chayenu ve'orech yamenu, give life to your days and lengthen them. Now, a synagogue is a covenantal community. We have community in a lot of ways, a soccer team, a puzzle club. Those can be communities. But a synagogue is a kehila kadosha, a sacred community that's connected around the idea of brit, of a covenant. Covenantal community is more than just a rhetorical flourish, but one with deep roots in Jewish tradition. God makes a covenant with Noah not to destroy the world. Then God makes more particular covenants with our ancestors. And the pinnacle is the one in which God made a covenant with the Jewish people as a whole at Mount Sinai. As one of my teachers taught me way back in my religious school, they said, a brit is a two-way promise that we keep the tradition and that God continues to care for the people. Our sources, of course, go through and many times about how we breach the covenant, and even the times that God has thought about letting down God's end of the bargain. Covenantal community is not easy to maintain, even when there is a great foundation of love. But we need to take seriously, again, the idea of covenant. Prior to the Enlightenment, one could not choose to define oneself fully as an individual. You were a Jew, whether you liked it or not, and therefore you were part of the group. With the advent of modernity, a person can in all reality choose not to be Jewish. That means that each of you here today are part of the choosing people. You have chosen to be affiliated. We choose to take on the practices. We obligate ourselves, but we need to take it seriously. We need to uphold the brit and our end of this two-way promise. We need to be in synagogue, but not only that, we need Judaism woven into our daily lives. So how can we become more of a kehila kadosha, or in other words, a community of practice? The preeminent sociologist Robert Wuthnow, a professor at Princeton University, writes in his book, After Heaven, Spirituality in America Since the 1950s, he talks about two major kinds of spirituality, that of dwelling and that of seeking. Dwelling is what we know from the 1950s, the peak of religious affiliation, the era of large, grandiose synagogues and attendance. But then come the 1960s and 70s and enters the spirituality of seeking, a spirituality that says, I don't have to dwell in a particular house of worship or a particular tradition. I can find and seek meaning in many places. The emphasis on personal meaning. Now, both dwelling and seeking have benefits, but both have problematic sides, and they're not sufficient enough, according to Wuthnow. Dwelling was too removed from the world and led to the vapidness that many people felt in their childhood synagogues, and a spirituality of seeking too disconnected, too disrooted, where now we have a whole generation of Jews, myself included, who know extremely little about our tradition. I was saying to someone the other day, I'm probably one of the dumbest rabbis who's ever lived. And I'm really smart, and I know a lot. Right? But just by virtue of the fact that I have grown up in the world that I grew up in means I'm less steeped in all of this, right? Even I have to take it more seriously. Wuth now recommends instead a spirituality of practice, which he defines as a cluster of intentional activities concerned with relating to the sacred. And he notes that most of these practices should be embedded in ordinary life. We need to marry the community aspect of spirituality of dwelling with the personal meaning and connections of a spirituality of seeking. Some of you might be saying, well, isn't that a description of traditional Jewish practice, right? That you would weave throughout your day blessings and traditions. For us, I don't want us to get stuck on that you have to observe all the traditions or that whole package. But spiritual practice, according to Wuth now, is about developing a capacity for discernment. Our ability to discern what actions are appropriate when, our capacity for regular and intentional reflection on how we act on values and how those values show up in our lives. In traditional Jewish parlance, this is called tikkun midot, the repair of our character traits. Jewish practice can provide a way of cultivating the traits of truth, compassion, humility, strength, and so many more. Developing a Jewish practice is also about dwelling through relocating our personal narrative and placing it within the larger narrative of the Jewish story. In this way, we place ourselves within a story that stretches back thousands of years, but at the same time looks forward to a world transformed. A synagogue is where we can connect with Judaism and Jewish people. And our tradition offers a treasure trove of over 2,000 years of practices intended to bring a sense of sacred into lives which are marked by instability and by anxiety. And we are an anxious people. We know in our kishkes, our guts, the inherent instability of the world. Whatever your nostalgia for Anatevka or Alexandria or Aurora, we also know that ultimately we can't find stability by only looking to the past. We need a spiritual home in this moment, in the place where we find ourselves. And this place, Congregation Beth Shalom, is the Jewish spiritual home in which you now find yourselves. And I know that our members join this congregation for many reasons: to educate children, to find a community of like-minded people, to mourn a parent, to find a meaningful Jewish spiritual home. Some folks may not be entirely sure why you've joined, beyond a sense that a Jew should belong to a synagogue. Thank you. All of these are perfectly good reasons for joining. But what I'm interested in is, regardless of why you joined, what's going to sustain you? What's going to make your membership here more meaningful, more potentially transformative in your life? Another way of asking this question is, what would it mean for CBS to become a community of practice? Whether it's making Shabbat a component of our week, or grappling seriously with the role of tzedakah in our lives, or awakening in ourselves our capacity for gratitude, wonder, and generosity, Judaism has insights, techniques, texts, and traditions to help, to challenge you, and to help you stay on a path that enables you to become your fullest self. But Jewish practice is not possible alone. A community of practice is essential. In Judaism, we talk about minyan, kehila, chevruta. Judaism cannot imagine a solo practitioner. Like anything else in life, a meaningful activity that enriches our lives can't be bought in a store, and it can't be achieved in 10 minutes or learned in a blog post. If you want to be good at pickleball, you have to play pickleball. You have to find partners to practice with. Same for playing an instrument or becoming a great cook or learning to climb mountains. And CBS has a myriad of ways that you can go deeper. Deepen your spiritual practice. Deepen your learning. Deepen your relationships. And the research shows that you will be healthier physically and mentally. So what I am asking is that you carve out time in your calendars for this community and for yourself. Come together and celebrate Shabbat. Come and learn, reflect, and sing, or just be, but be together rather than by yourself. This is how we will make CBS even more of a Kehillah Kadosha, a sacred community. Now, it's our job as synagogue leadership to help make this community workable and desirable for you, and we take that seriously, invigorating our education, deepening our commitment to pastoral care, a calendar full of a host of vibrant member activities. I want to be careful and name that by asking how we all can become more a community of practice, that I don't intend to suggest that we do not have dedicated and caring members. We have tremendous dedicated and caring members who give of their time and their money and their lives to deepen this community, from shivas to member events to book groups, bowling, crafting, Torah readers, greeters, oneg sponsors, religious school teachers, and more. We are blessed that so many give so deeply. What I am saying is that I hope even more of you will take advantage of these diverse opportunities in a way that makes sense for your spiritual aims and the realities of your life, and that even our very dedicated members can think about, how could you deepen your own personal practice? How could you deepen your relationships with members of this community? Now, years ago, members joined what we called chavurot, groups, that connected members and helped them to deepen their relationships with one another. And so in addition to Jewish practice and making time to be here, we are relaunching our chavurot groups, and we hope that you will consider joining one. Groups of folks who like to cook or to craft or to hike or to have Shabbat dinner or to learn Hebrew. We want you to connect and develop your practice. So stay tuned for these details. But even if you don't join a group, could you ask someone, can I have lunch with you? Can I have coffee with you? Let me get to know you. A Kehillah Kadosha, a sacred community of practice. I mentioned at the beginning, I never imagined myself in a role like this, but here I am, Hineni, and here are you, Hinenu. May we consider ourselves fortunate to find a community that provides blessing. I certainly feel fortunate to have found this role, one that I wasn't truly able to appreciate before. And in many ways, I have all of you to thank. Shana Tova.